the University of Connecticut School of Business. I'm Mick Montfejic, your host for Career Tuesday, our virtual session for 4 o'clock on September 28th. It's been a jam-packed day with events, especially for career events. We had the University Fair taking place, as well as Career Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and certainly last but not least, a 4 o'clock session for you. As I always say, there's always some great information, inside information here about career opportunities, so definitely take notes. I would definitely say also connect with the Business School Career Office if you have a chance to download LinkedIn on your mobile device. Follow us as well as on Instagram with UConn Biz Career. We're just one click away to help you in your next endeavor. So today I want to welcome a special guest, Calculate, based out, I believe, out of New York City, if I'm not mistaken, a growing financial accounting consulting firm. With two folks in virtually connected here with us today, Joe Pissarro, as well as Lucy. Lucy, hopefully I don't want to butcher your last name. Is it Wincup?
It's Wine Coop, actually. No one ever gets it right on the first try.
Absolutely. So I'm sure many of our students are interested in just learning more about your organization, the wonderful work that you guys do. And before I guess we get to that first question, to learn a little bit more about Calculate, can we just kind of get a little bit background as well about your folks' background, Joe and Lucy? I'm not sure who would like to start. If Joe, you'd like to kind of
go ahead.
A little bit details about
got to hand it to the UConn alum first.
I'll go ahead. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll get started.
Absolutely.
So I was a UConn alum in 2011. And after I left UConn, I went to Deloitte. So I was there for about a year. I was an accounting major in the business school before I left. So I had worked at Deloitte for about a year in audit. And then primarily my career after that was in audit as well. I worked with Bloom Shapiro, which was formerly a regional firm who was recently merged with CLA out of West Hartford. So I am still local. I live in Connecticut. But in about 2018 with Bloom Shapiro, I transitioned into a manager role working in their business process outsourcing group. So I moved away from audit and into the consulting space. And in that role, I was an outsourced controller for mid-size companies in the area in a variety of industries.
Oh,
and then last fall, I joined Calculate to take a similar role, but in a different space. So with Calculate, I work on services type businesses and agencies specifically. And we work with growing businesses to provide back office accounting work all the way through controller, CFO, and then some strategic advisory as well. And then we have a couple branches of the business, and I sort of lead up the services group of our team here.
wow.
Yeah, so we do. I moved a little bit more to the finance space, which is a little bit different, not my background, and it's been good. So I've been there for the last year, and it's an exciting role helping small businesses grow their business.
Well, that's fantastic, Lucy. It's great to see sort of your career growth as well. Starting out at the Big Four with Deloitte and kind of working away with Bloom Shapiro rather, and now being with Calculate. And it's a pleasure to have you back here virtually on campus. Joe, just a little bit of insight about your background as well for us today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a 2013 grad at Drexel University down in Philadelphia, majored in accounting and finance, and my first 4 years of my career right out of school, I started at BDO in the audit practice. So I was an auditor for 4 busy seasons over at BDO, had a wide range of clients that I worked on there. And I kind of hit a point in my career that I had an itch to do something a little bit different, but, relatively similar. So I made the switch to the recruiting side of things. So I went and worked for the next almost 4 years at Robert Half, mainly in their permanent placement, finance and recruiting group. So helping companies look to hire and also helping candidates look for jobs and helping them kind of in that stage. So did that for about 4 years, and Calculate. I got introduced to our founder Joe about halfway into my Robert Half career. Kind of progressed the relationship to the point where we kind of grew as a business here at Calculate, and I got hired to build out the internal recruiting function of our business. So I head up our internal recruiting efforts. I partner with our sales team, and there's actually some clients that we have that outgrow us to a point, and we were kind of building up an external recruiting practice to help some of our clients hire as well. So multifaceted on my side. That's a little bit of my career trajectory, and went from, doing a lot of the work that we do to advising and, helping people find that next role for themselves, and now just merging the two together and building it out internally here at Calculate.
Well, that's fantastic, Joey. That kind of really points the picture for hopefully for a lot of our students that sometimes career isn't so always linear, and you got to take advantage of the opportunities that you're presented with, and especially building out that network. So that's fantastic that you were able to connect really with the founder of Calculate and see this business truly grow. So that really leads me to my first question about learning more about Calculate. What is it exactly that the company does for students that might be exploring finance, might be exploring accounting as far as careers, the types of companies that they might work with on a daily basis? What does a day-to-day kind of look like for someone that might be starting out early in their career with Calculate?
Yeah, and I can take that one. So we like to say we handle the number side of the businesses. So we partner with growing companies, and we like to say ambitious founders for growing companies. So most of the time we're working directly with the founders to build out their finance team. And that can look like a variety of things. For some clients, that's just consulting. But a typical engagement would be a little bit more robust than that. So generally, we would own the entire finance function. So we would have a team of 2 to 3 people working on each client, and helping them to handle every single part of their finance function. So that includes paying their bills, invoicing their customers, um, keeping their accounting records, putting together their financials, and then doing the projections and building out the models going forward with those clients, working on their budgets and all that kind of stuff. Um, Typically in those teams, we would have an associate or senior associate and an associate director or director involved. And we like to keep our teams pretty small so that we can really dedicate our time to the clients. And we like to keep our client load fairly light as well, so that you can really focus on the clients that you have. I think we offer other things to the clients as well. So we do taxes, and we have advisory services. Transaction advisory is what I meant by that. So most of our clients opt to use us for taxes as well. So I'm a CPA, but I always joke I'm not a tax CPA. I've done them like 1 year in my entire career. So I don't do the taxes, but we have a tax team that can handle that. So for most of our clients, we're doing their taxes, whether that's just their corporate taxes or their partnership taxes, or also their individual taxes if they're the partnership owners. And then a transaction advisory services. So a lot of our clients are looking to fundraise, and they're trying to raise money, or they're trying to sell their business, and we can help them through that process as well. And I think there was another question there that
Yeah, Lucy, I was going to say, as far as the types of clients that you guys are servicing too,
Yes.
I mean,
Okay.
is it a wide spectrum? Can it be an institutional investor? Could it be a startup, like you said, a hedge fund,
Yep.
private equity? What's the clientele kind of list looks like for as far
Yeah.
as,
So generally, we work with I would consider most of them startups in a few different spaces. So we work with a lot of tech startups, and we kind of have divided our practice into 3 different groups. So we have a group that works on tech startups, what we call our consumer group, which is consumer goods. So those are any businesses that create a physical product. So we might partner with, but generally they're new to the market. They're trying to grow. They have experienced significant growth and have gotten early. They've raised funds early on. So I would generally consider most of them startups. And then what I do, I work on the agency side. So they're more like advertising agencies. They work with in the influencer space, in the event space, PR agencies, stuff like that. And we also work with funds. So we work with venture capital funds as well, providing our services to them, as well as partnering with them for their portfolio companies.
That's fantastic. That's great. You guys really make an immediate impact, especially with the companies that are really, starting out to be more fruitful and growing as an organization. So that's awesome that you guys get to see that growth occur really organically early on with a lot of these companies.
Yeah, it's a model that works really well for that. Most of our founders are bootstrapped at the beginning. They're trying to be really smart and lean with what they have. So the outsourcing is a great model for that, where they can work with us on a limited basis. It might be 10 hours a week, but they have access to a team of everyone from an associate all the way through CFO level advisory, which would be
Wow.
multiple positions if you had to hire that yourself.
That's awesome. That's really fantastic. Now, as far as planning for the summer of 2022 here, What are the types of roles that you guys are trying to really fill? Are there internship opportunities for potentially students? Are we looking for more, graduate levels, senior type of roles, those that might have 2, 3 years of experience? What are those areas that you guys are really trying to fill as far as building out the organization and finding the right candidates to fill these roles?
I'll take this one. So, typically, when we kind of look, top to bottom with the way that we kind of build out our teams, our associate level, opening is usually something that's pretty similar across all three of our verticals that we're probably constantly looking to hire. So that type of, profile is definitely someone I would say more on the couple years experience. Like we've hired, where we like to target people is right out of, I would say, 1 year out of, anywhere from 1 to 3 years out of either a big four accounting firm or a large national, firm like a BDO or a Grant Thornton, or RSM, those types of firms. Anywhere from, one busy season to 2, 3 busy seasons is usually around the experience level that we, to date up until this point that we really target. So us as a company, like we've kind of seen, I would say, right when COVID hit, I think we were right about 8 or 9 employees, and we're up to about, 25 and looking to scale. And we're in, went from one major city to 3 or 4 major markets. So we have a lot of kind of growth aspirations over the next 2 years. Like I think we would love to hire, and double headcount by next year and potentially triple in 2 years. So I would say the foundational, hire that we always make it that, services a lot of our clients is this associate role where, I think that the typical profile is someone in that, 1 year to 3 years, with either an audit or a tax background or, strong accounting type background, to kind of join us and, own a set of accounts and clients that you work closely with, like as Lucy mentioned, with one other person, and kind of own that whole accounting function to these companies.
Fantastic, Joe. That's great to know as far as the type of candidate that you're really looking to find and the type of skills, which actually leads me to the next question is figuring out, those types of skills that you guys are actually looking for when it comes to the selection process. What do you look for in candidates? That way students could be more aware of, these are the kind of the key ingredients, the elements that we really need to have in order to be considered for an opportunity here at Calculate.
Yeah, so I mean, I think starts with the resume and an experience, and I think me being someone that looks through, I don't know, 100 or 200 of them a day. I think it's important, not only just from a skill set standpoint. I think if we could talk about skill set is, I mentioned coming out of some of those firms, having strong experience in either an accounting or tax foundation. Kind of, especially if you're on that accounting side of things and have that accounting major, I think that's kind of the core foundational piece for us at the early stage of our growth. Having a CPA or showing kind of, that you're on that path, maybe you've studied and passed a part, like that's always something, anything that you can quantify, I'd always recommend to put on that resume, because you might be studying for a CPA, you might have 2 parts passed, but if it's not there, I can't see it, or any employer can't see it. So, kind of approaching that type of, that certification, it definitely sticks out to us. And, I would say, being able to kind of, manage multiple projects and, kind of deal with multiple, different tasks. And that's always kind of challenging, I would say, to kind of put down on a resume. But, I think there's definitely different ways on how to kind of, showcase examples of certain either clients that you've worked with or other projects that you've dealt with at a certain company that will lead you to, kind of managing that. Because I think with us, not just focusing on one client, usually, our associates have anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 clients that they might be managing, on a monthly basis, kind of showcasing some of those attributes, on top of the core, accounting foundation is, some of the aspects that I think not only we try to, look for and interview and assess for, but, what also makes someone really successful, stepping into the associate role here at Calculate, having a blend of that experience, for us, really gives those people a leg up once they get here, as opposed to, trying to kind of hone in some of those skills as you grow. And there's always areas for improvement for all of us. But I think that foundation of a person is what really allows people to thrive, here at Calculate.
That's fantastic insight, Joe. Thank you so much for providing that answer here. I'm going to ask you: is it CPA? How important is that really? The CPA, should students be focusing towards that? The CMA, there's other also designations out there, especially when you're talking about an industry like yours in the financial services side. Is there, more than one that students should maybe even explore, or is it CPA sort of that gold standard that you guys really look for?
Yeah, I think there's a few different certifications out there for accounting, and in my experience, not only here at Calculate, but even previously, I know there's a lot of, like the 4+1 programs for the master's programs that a lot of, the university is offering for a lot of the 150 credits for students to achieve. But to me, on the accounting side, the CPA certifications hold the most weight over either the CMA or even the there's a couple, kind of below that, but the CPA is always, I think, what's going to separate people, on the accounting side. On the finance side, I think, especially in financial services, there is a plethora of different, certifications that you would kind of, potentially go for. I think a lot of it just depends on what type of finance you're going to go into. Like if you're going to go into either wealth management or things that we maybe Calculate doesn't necessarily do, there's definitely other certifications that just become a requirement, like a Series 7. But between the one that always kind of sticks out to me is the CFA exam, the Charter Financial, I forget the, yeah, but the CFA, I know it's a pretty rigorous one. I know it's, I think they offer there's a 3 levels. There's one part that gets offered twice a year. And then after that, part 2 or level 2, level 3 is only offered once. So, the people that kind of get through those levels, that's definitely a pretty big certification to have on your resume, in my opinion. As you kind of scale, and that's just kind of more overarching, especially getting into some of those, core finance duties of things. Because I think a lot of, it kind of counterbalances what I mentioned about us as Calculate trying to bring this back around, where, there are some of those core accounting duties that the CPA definitely allows, but, at the, associate director level is usually when you're kind of running accounts and all that kind of stuff. And, there's other, we kind of like to blend our teams with, core accounting professionals and core finance professionals. And, as you progress in your career, some of those, that CFA certification or, kind of coming out of other different industries like investment banking or private equity, are some of those core aspects to our business that really help us, because when companies are looking to fundraise and really looking to kind of think about, the forward thinking aspects of their business, I would say, those 2 certifications to me stick out when we think about not only, what helps us grow, but what those kind of certifications allow the service that we provide, to the clients that we have.
That's fantastic insight, Joe. And it shows that, also the value, the credibility as far as the type of candidates that Calculate really looks for to fill the roles of the organization, to provide that highest quality of service. So I guess, my next question for, as far as the recruiting piece goes, whether it's, the Career Tuesday, such as today, a career fair, or even during the interview process, what really makes candidates stick out from students, whether it's the skills, the networking aspect, what would you say really sticks out in making that decision factor of saying, hey, this is a candidate that we want to bring in for the interview, or this is the person that really stood out during the interview process that we want to hire? Are there any specific skills or things from your past year experiences that kind of gave you that gut reaction saying, hey, I really, this is the people that we need to hire to work at Calculate?
Yeah, no, great question. So I'd like to answer the first part of this because I'm usually the first line of defense here at Calculate, and we always like to pass down the people that we like to the hiring managers, such as Lucy. So I'm sure she'll have some insight on her side too. But for me, what sticks out to me, with candidates is, usually our first round is, kind of an informational get to know you, your experience, what you do, what you're looking to do, all those types of, kind of standard core first round interview questions. But to me, what sticks out to me, from the people that usually I get really excited about is, people that can articulate their experience, really well and, in action-based example ways. It's one thing to kind of read off your resume and what you wrote down, but, can you take that a step further and really kind of bring to light what that experience was or is, through some of the things that you've done in your career. So, I think, really kind of taking it a step further, because again, at an interview, I've already read the resume. I know what it says, but I'm really looking to see how you articulate and explain it. And then also, kind of, presenting yourself. And I always, I think there's always a situation, like I always wait for what types of questions candidates have for me. There's a few different ways because, if someone asks a lot of like the standard questions, like, what can I expect, from a typical day at Calculate? Like those are always, good answers that I think people really, should know and need to know. But when people take it a step further and really did the research, know what we do, and have some really thought-provoking questions on our business and how it affects this role, and where everything's going, like to me that just shows someone that cares about us and is really interested in us and has taken the time and really thinks about it in a deeper level. Because a lot of times, the technical side, I always let the hiring managers and the team really assess that. But I always look for in a person, like how well did you prepare? How can you present yourself? And how interested are you in us? And the way that they articulate their answers and questions throughout that gives me a pretty good sense, at least where their head's at, and from an ambition standpoint and a preparation standpoint. So that's kind of some of the key things that I look for in the first round, on top of just obviously what the core experience, make sure that it hits our criteria. But the next step further is usually what separates the good from the great for me.
Yeah, and I'll echo some of what Joe said, that I think I think when people are able to articulate why they want to come work for us, or have given that thought, is really important to me, versus why they don't like their current job. I think that's a really important distinction. And I think people who have given that some thought and like are have a plan, like they're thinking about what they want for their career and what they want to learn and what opportunities they might be able to have, always really stands out in an interview to me. um, but I think another thing that I really look for is um, people who can clearly explain how their work style, and I think in particularly their ability to try to tackle projects on their own. I think it's really important to me to see people showing that they're willing to take initiative. They want to do the first steps, um, and then learn from you or whatever, versus trying being someone who's going to just wait for work to come to them and do exactly what you've told them. I guess we kind of look for people who do more than pick things up and put them down. We really want people who are going to be able to think on their own, add value to our clients on their own, are going to come up with their own ideas. So I think some sort of, like, as creative as accountants and finance people can be, is something that stands out to me in an interview as well. That you're thinking a little bit differently about your job, your career, your clients, and that I think is something that really is important.
That's a fantastic insight from Joe and Lucy. Thank you so much for sharing that. As far as big takeaways, I have to say, definitely, having that interpersonal communication skills, and conducting that research about the organization, taking it one step further rather than just being one of 50 that hands in a resume that's really not focused or targeted for the job, and you have really no idea what this company is all about. And here you are trying to apply for an opportunity, and there's really the reason behind it is not there, without doing that insight and to show that you actually do care about the organization, what you do. And then showing initiative, taking on projects, being a leader, as Lucy kind of alluded to. I think that's, some definitely great insight for students to be aware of and be cognizant of. I know we're getting closer to short, as far as time, we're getting closer to the 4:30 mark. I definitely want to open up the questions to the floor and take a look to see what we have in the chat function here. So we do have a question. It looks like, as far as the roles that are posted, how important is a strong LinkedIn profile for a candidate?
Yeah, so I think for me, I'd be lying if I said that every time I got a resume, usually it's either through LinkedIn or I kind of go and looked at LinkedIn and kind of see what's on there. So, I think what's on there, is important. Having a really good, kind of not only a profile picture, but like, the content that you put in there, especially coming out of school, activities that you've done, kind of important. What's on there is what has also not only what people are going to look like when they see your resume, but it's also the more that's on there helps people find you too. So not only do I just kind of look at different, job applies, but I also kind of target and look for certain skill sets of people on LinkedIn too. So, the more that's on there, I always say it's kind of like a second resume, because the more skills that you have on there, the more kind of, data that you have on there that showcase not only your skills, but what you've done, is also going to help the certain people that are looking for you, that you may not be looking for them, but people like myself, and other kind of agencies and all those types of things in the past, like everyone's looking for, kind of top talent. So the more that you have on there to showcase what you've done and what you're interested in doing, not only can help when you go into that first round interview, because assume that every hiring manager has looked at that prior to that interview, but it also kind of helps in the second part of, people finding you for roles that you might be looking for as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll say I don't think I anticipated that when I graduated, the amount of people who find me through LinkedIn. I think particularly after having, like I have a Big Four in my background and some stuff like that. I'm regularly, like probably almost daily, reached out to by recruiters. So I think I would say it's really important to have a good LinkedIn profile and to have it be as robust as possible, because I think people are definitely out there looking at it and searching for the right candidates for their roles that way, instead of just waiting for you to apply to their roles.
That's fantastic. So, networking is definitely key. It's another key element to LinkedIn, and having a robust profile. I guess if students are definitely interested in finding out more about opportunities with Calculate, is it okay for them to even reach out to you, Lucy, or to Joe, as far as opportunities? And as far as applying for these roles, should students definitely look through the company website or through LinkedIn, or is it going to direct them to go to the company website?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to, take any interest, and usually I'm always the first step here. So I'm happy to kind of talk more about us, and if anyone has any follow-up questions with us, and for any of the roles as well, like I think LinkedIn, and we're on LinkedIn. We have a few roles on Angel List as well. LinkedIn's probably the best one. We have some of our roles on our website as well, but I would say LinkedIn's probably the best one. And then even on there, like I think my name's attached to it too. Even a kind of on top of that, a direct, kind of message to me would work as well too.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, both of you, Joe and Lucy, for virtually connecting with us here today. We're so appreciative again for you taking the time out of your day, your busy schedules, to join us here live. I guess at this point, I'll just do a final round robin here, but if there's anyone else in the tiles that would like to ask Joe or Lucy a question in regards to career, this is definitely the time to do so. Feel free to use your mic or the chat function. I'll take a pause here for a moment. Okay, so since we do not, oh, go ahead, Kathy.
I always have questions.
Sure.
So Lucy and Joe, I got to talk to you on the phone, and some of the stuff that you were talking about, I think is interesting, that the people on your team are I hate to say ex-employees, but people who used to work at Big Four and investment firms. So when you are all together as a team, do you do like professional development? Is there like cross training there from everybody's different backgrounds for this?
Yeah, there is actually. We use some internal methods to do that, and I think everyone kind of has their different backgrounds, and we've built out a team. We've built out a team pretty intentionally around that. So wherever one of us might be, lacking in a skill set or whatever, we're trying to fill that with somebody else who has that background. So like my background is strictly on the auditing side, but that's complemented nicely by someone with more technical accounting, or people on the banking side who are more in the finance brain. So yeah, we do have internal trainings as well as just some more like um, ad hoc conversations. We use like Slack channels. So if anyone has questions about something specific, you can ping the channel and anybody can respond who has that knowledge. I think that's a really helpful way for us to kind of crowdsource information. And then also we rely on each other's networks as well. So the bigger we get, the more internal resources we have. But we also all come from backgrounds where either people we know are still in public accounting or at big banks, or they've left and they're in other roles where they're the director of finance of the type of organization. And I think that's a really good way for us to also crowdsource our knowledge, and something that I wish when I was in school I paid a little bit more attention to the networking. So I do think it is really important later on in life how many people who are in who are doing these things that are now either good networking in terms of business opportunities, or networking just in terms of getting knowledge from people that you know and have met throughout your career.
And even on one additional comment to that, being that we have like such small teams per client also allows us for that crossover too. So like some of the big larger firms, if you get stuck on a big team, you might only see your small piece of it. The way that we've kind of built it out is, as you kind of progress and you're seeing a client, with one or two other people, that opportunity to see more outside of just accounting or just finance, is rarely attainable, for the people that want to see that. And I think our small groups of teams allow for that kind of natural training over time too, to kind of really elevate everyone at our companies, regardless of level. Could be one finance person who needs to learn more accounting, or a lower level associate who really wants to learn some finance. We have all built into the way that we structure our teams and our client service teams to allow for that on the job training too.
And you also mentioned the angel list. Is that where, and I should be familiar with this, but is that where somebody would actually post a resume? Or is your company listed on Angel List and they could find you there?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So Angel List, I think, is a platform, I would say predominantly around startups. A lot of startups go on there, and a lot of, candidates interested in working for startups post their profile on there. Not nearly as robust as LinkedIn, but it's kind of over time kind of been a pretty. We've had some success using that platform as well internally. Where you can have your resume posted and you can say, hey, I'm actively looking for a job now, or I'm passively looking and open to certain types of things, and kind of put your parameters as a candidate out there. But I would say the types of clients that are out there are really in the startup space. So if the startup space is definitely something you're really excited and interested about, that's a platform I always recommend to kind of at least have a presence on, and because of how targeted it is in that space.
It's really helpful.
Absolutely. Well, it's great information, Lucy and Joe. Great insight, the value of networking and engaging with potential employers early on, something that you definitely reflected on going back to 2011 here. And Joe, phenomenal insight as well about just an additional resource for students to be aware of for Angel List. And I have to say, again, mentioning the skills and the sort of the talent that you guys really need. It must be just an exciting space to be in and calculate, and to see that organic growth and the teamwork, the camaraderie amongst everyone within the organization, is phenomenal. So on behalf of the University of Connecticut School of Business, the faculty, staff, and students, I'd just like to thank both of you again for taking the time. We look forward to having you on campus, and I hope you stay dry.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Take
Bye.
care now. Bye-bye.